It's time for Waking Up with Wesley. Today's forecast and weather-wise discussion with WLOX First Alert Weather's senior meteorologist, Wesley Williams.
Waking Up with Wesley is sponsored by Exclusive Auto Brokers. For the best deals on wheels, visit Exclusive Auto Brokers on Beatline Road in Long Beach.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for waking up with Wesley. I'm Senior Meteorologist Wesley Williams. Well, if you are just waking up, then you might have missed a pretty interesting view that we were able to capture live during Good Morning Mississippi a few hours ago. However, if you were one of those early risers, then what a treat it was to get that rare sighting of this unusual cloud that appeared over the Mississippi coast. But don't take my word for it. We had our cameras rolling a time lapse when that occurred, and we'll take a look at that time lapse footage right about now and take a look and see. So it's pretty easy to see something that doesn't usually happen in our sky was happening there at the top of the picture. I'll pause this time lapse and start it over. And I mean, in case you missed it, it's this area right here, this very bright, strangely shaped cloud-looking object in the sky. So we'll go ahead and hit the play button on that so you can watch over time how that gradually just kind of spreads apart, disperses, and eventually disappears. And it wasn't like we just had one view of this. There were actually multiple views. There was also one that was in Biloxi. This was Gulfport, but this is Biloxi, showing the exact same thing. So it's clear if you got the same view or the same thing showing up from multiple vantage points, you definitely have something going on. It's not like it's a glitch with the camera or something happening in one particular site versus the other. So now that we know that it was definitely happening, it's just a matter of trying to figure out what was definitely happening. What in the world is this cloud that many of you might not have seen very often, if not at all, in the area? And it got me to thinking. And I mean, to be frank and to be completely honest, I didn't know exactly what it was, but look, the year is 2025. We're flying rockets to space like multiple times a week at this point. We live in the future, basically. So there's always some rocket launching from somewhere. And sometimes these can cause some interesting sort of vapor trails in the sky. So that was my first line of thinking. I didn't know exactly what it was, but I knew that it was not by Mother Nature. I knew that it was partially man-made. And once I did a quick internet search, it was easy to see, yes, there indeed was a rocket that launched some satellites into space from Cape Canaveral, Florida, early Tuesday morning. And that's the reason why that shape appeared in our sky. It was basically a cloud that is sometimes caused or occurred, let's rephrase that. It's a cloud that occurs high up in Earth's upper atmosphere, and it's what's known as a noctilucent cloud. Now, we actually had a viewer send us a picture of this. We had multiple viewers send us pictures of this. They sent those pictures to WLOX. This is a picture from Craig in Gulfport, and you can see right there at the bottom, you got the silhouette of a tree, and then in the distant sky there, that rare cloud seen in early Tuesday's sky, that noctilucent cloud. We'll make this picture a bit bigger on the screen so you can see it there. Notice how wispy it is. There's not a lot of moisture in that cloud. It's very thin, and it's made of ice crystals. You know, this is similar in appearance to a cirrus cloud. A cirrus cloud is also a very thin and wispy cloud made of ice crystals. It's made of ice crystals because it's that high up in the sky that the air up there is so cold, any moisture immediately turns into ice. It freezes. We can go through the process of how a noctilucent cloud would form from this event. So first of all, what does that word mean, noctilucent? Well, nocti, it basically means night. Lucent basically means light or shining. So it's a night shining cloud, in other words. And I'll talk about why it was shining so brightly right after we get through this. So like we said, there was a Florida rocket launch early Tuesday morning, and that rocket produced a water vapor trail behind the rocket as it was going up in the sky. This vapor, this water vapor coming out of the back of it. Very similar to, you know, if your car's driving down the road, your exhaust pipe is putting out some fumes behind the car. So similar thing with the rocket, there's water vapor that's coming out of the back of it. But that water vapor is moisture. It's really a gas if you want to be really technical about it, but it's tiny, super microscopic particles of water. They're so tiny that water vapor is basically a gas. It is a gas. And this vapor actually froze in high altitude in Earth's upper atmosphere. It became tiny little ice crystals. And that's key, that it's ice. That is going to play an important role in why the cloud looked exactly like it looked. But the reason we could see it way over here in Mississippi is because it was that high up in altitude. This is in the upper atmosphere. It's closer to space, you know, so it's way up there, which makes it easy to see from very far away. So that's why in Mississippi we could see the cloud from a rocket that launched in Florida. Now let's talk about this. If we go back to the visual here, look at, there's a couple of different clouds. We'll pause this at the beginning, so I want to point this out. So at sunrise, where is the sun in this picture? That's a trick question. The sun's not in this picture. It's below the ground, below the horizon. You know, if we had to draw a straight line, the sun might be like down here beneath the horizon. It has not risen yet as of 5:18 a.m. in Gulfport. The sun already rose over in Florida. The sun already rose over in, you know, the East Coast. But for us in Mississippi, it didn't quite come up yet. The sun always rises in the east first. So the farther east you are, the earlier that sunrise time will be, because you're in a different time zone, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, the sun is still below the horizon for us. So that's why we can't see it in this view here. But when you're at a very high altitude like this cloud, that sun, even though it's beneath the horizon from our perspective, the sun is shining directly on that cloud from that cloud's perspective, because it's that high up in the air that it can get that sun shining directly at the cloud from beneath our horizon, or our perspective's horizon. Now, there's actually another cloud in this picture. Do you see it? It's way over here on the right. Over here. That was a crudely drawn circle. My apologies for that. But I just want to draw your attention to that low cloud. Those are clouds that are actually caused by Mother Nature. And those are rain clouds that are forming somewhere east of Mississippi's coast. Maybe they're offshore of Alabama or offshore of Florida. Those clouds don't have that same appearance, right? If this is a cloud and these are clouds, why don't they look the same? Why don't they look the same color? These are darker, these are brighter. And it's just like I said, this cloud is so high up in the sky that the sun is shining directly on it. These clouds are actually low in the sky. They're pretty close to the ground, actually. So the sun can't shine on them yet, because from their perspective, the sun is still below the horizon. So hopefully that gives you an understanding of why that cloud appears so bright when everything else was actually still pretty dark. And eventually that cloud disperses. Once the sun gets high up in the sky, it kind of just sort of blinds, or the sun is so bright that it's hard to really see that cloud much anymore. Hence why it's called a noctilucent cloud. You typically only see them overnight. Typically right before sunrise, or maybe right after sunset would be the most likely time to see such a cloud. Once the sun is filling the sky with bright light, it's very difficult to make out such a faint, wispy cloud that is so high up in our sky and so far away from the ground. Plus, it doesn't really last very long. It's, you know, made up of loose ice crystal particles that are eventually going to disperse. So it did not last very long, but if you were able to see it, then that was a treat for you early Tuesday. Speaking of Tuesday, even though we had a rare cloud show up, our forecast and our weather pattern is the opposite of rare. It's about as common as you can get. It's basic, it's typical, it's reliable, it's Julyable. We're talking about high temperatures in the lower 90s with a rain chance about 30 to 40%. There can be some pop-up showers and storms, so you want an umbrella with you in case you see some of those. And that's basically going to be the name of the game as we go through the next few days. There's going to be a very kind of typical summer-like pattern, maybe a slight increase in the rain chance during the second half of the week. Also remember, heat index could be a factor because there is some humidity in the forecast. Those heat index numbers will likely reach the triple digits, going around 100 to 105 on Tuesday afternoon. So be sure to stay hydrated. We've had way worse heat index days. We've had heat index of 108, 110. If you remember, a couple of summers ago, we actually had a heat index like over 115 or something like that. Maybe it was over 120. I don't know. It was an intense summer of 2023. But today, none of that intensity. It is going to be a hot feeling day, but not the worst it's ever been, that's for sure. And finally, if you're wondering, when are we finally going to be done with those 90s? When are we finally going to get to more of that fall feel? I know it's July and it's early, and you're right, because look, as we look at the last few years, you typically don't see the final 90-degree day of the year, based on recent years, until October. Early October, but still October. And so, yeah, check your calendar. It's still July. We still have the whole rest of July, the entirety of August, the complete month of September. And then finally, once we get to the first week of October, that could be when we finally start to get out of these 90s and break free of them. So just a friendly reminder that, if you are tired of the 90s, it's probably not a good idea to waste your breath complaining, because you're going to be doing it every day. As I like to say, if you can't beat them, join them. Embrace the summer warmth, the summer heat, and enjoy it, especially since it's not going to be record-setting, but it's just kind of typical for this time of year. And plus, it saves you some energy from having to complain every day, so we can just get through the summer with more of a smile. And like I said, eventually we get to the end of those 90s by early October. So something to give you, something to look forward to down the line if you're not the biggest fan of summer weather. But if you're a summer lover, rejoice, because you got many months to go, many days in these next few months to go with these 90s. Well, that'll pretty much do it for this edition of Waking Up with Wesley. I've been Senior Meteorologist Wesley Williams. I'll see you around. But until then, take care and have a good one.
Waking Up with Wesley has been sponsored by Exclusive Auto Brokers. For the best deals on wheels, visit Exclusive Auto Brokers on Beatline Road in Long Beach.